Okay, hello everyone. So here we go. So I had went back and I went ahead and I cut my pieces with the tracing paper that we talked about. And I came across a few issues, which is fine because when you're sewing, you're gonna have issues. So what I did is I went ahead and I put down my I measured my pieces that I'll need in order to get to these sizes based on what I told you the length and the width was for the top part, which is this piece, and then what we would need for the bottom part, which is this piece up here. And what I did is, one, you may have some issues with this, which is fine because you can work it out. This curve part right here, just make sure when you cut it that you try to make your curves as even as you possibly can all the way across. So what I did was I cut this one and I call this a mock cut because then I made my adjustments from here. Like if you look at this portion right here, which is the part that we're going to be attaching to the dishcloth, you can see how my art is not that good, and this is a little more rounded than this. So what I did is I went back and I looked at my measurements and I tried to make sure that my measurements were as precise as possible. So what I want to show you, because again, you're going to make mistakes, things are going to be off a little bit, and I'll start with the bottom portion first. Okay, so this is the bottom portion. This was my mock piece with tracing paper, and here is where I made the corrections. So you can see now it looks a lot more even. And what I noticed when I went back to measure, if you look at our bottom, it should be 7 by 3.5 with approximate 1/2 inch seams all around. So now if you look at my corrected pieces, you can see that from the top, which is right about here, to the bottom, you're at 3. So what I had to do when I noticed it is, let me switch hands. I think I can do it better to show you better. So this part should be 3.5 by 7. So when I got here, I noticed that it wasn't quite 3.5. You see where it's ending on the 3? So what I did was, in order to make it work, take that marking chalk that I showed you, and as you can see, voila, 3.5. Okay, so because you want your length to be 3.5, because this 1/2 inch in between here, we're gonna need to tuck in as a seam. So you want to make sure you have, again, 0 is at the top. That's the top of your bottom portion as you're gonna connect to the dishcloth. And then 3 was what I actually cut, but remember we needed 3.5. So in order to make the correction, which you can do as you sew, you can make corrections as you sew, I just added this line. So when I cut out my pattern, I'm going to cut on this line. Then if you look here, we did pretty good. The 0 is there. And if you look across, 7. We wanted it to be 7 by 3.5. Okay, so we know that now we are ready to cut our bottom portion of our dishcloth that will be connected. And once again, and I emphasize this because it is very important, if you are making 2 dishcloths, you need 2 sets of these, but you need to have your fabric doubled so that when you cut, let me see if I can show you, so that when you cut, you're gonna have 2 and 2, 4, because 2 will be for one dishcloth, 2 will be for the other dishcloth. Okay, so now you see that I cut this, and again, play with it. Play with your tracing paper. Play with your measurements. If you cut it wrong, that's why I use tracing paper, because had we used the fabric, it's very hard to go back and make corrections to fabric that's already cut. Especially, let's say, if I had already cut this, I wouldn't be able to add the extra ½ inch that we needed. By my curves being off, had I cut it, it would be very difficult to make it correct. And I learned that the hard way, I think, and I said in previous videos, don't be lazy. Do it the way I'm trying to instruct you to do it, because I know the lazy way, you'll end up regretting it because you can't make the necessary corrections. Okay, so now, as you can see, because I didn't have this as precise as it should have been, I was able to make the corrections here on my actual pattern. Okay, so now we go on to the top part. So again, when I cut, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Okay, so when I cut this piece up here, the mock one, I put it down here and I just checked to see, okay, is it 6 by 4? And it wasn't. So this is what I did. If you look at this one, which I haven't made the corrections yet, if I put the 0 at the top and this at the bottom, is actually, the length is 7 inches. If I measure my width, putting the 0 there, and the width is now 4. Okay, now, so, well, let me just see. So it's off a little bit. See how the 0's there, and it's off a little bit by 4. So what I did was, long story short, so that I don't stay on this too long, is I made the corrections on this one. So this one, as you can see, is now on the 0, right? And 6. It ends at 6. And remember, we wanted the length for the top portion to be 6. And then I noticed this was off a little, so I made this 0, and as you can see, voila, 4. So now I have my first top part piece cut at 6 length, 4 width, and ½ inch seams will be sewn on the width. The half, I'm going to sew in a ½ inch here and a ½ inch here when we make it. Okay, and then we're going to tuck this bottom part in by about an inch. Yeah, 1 inch will be tucked in for the length. Okay, so now, as you can see, we have our first piece cut. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to get my scissors, and I'm going to adjust this one, which is not the correct measurement, so that it measures 6 in length, 4 in width, and then I'm going to place this down again, because I'm using 2 separate types of fabric. You can use, all of this could be black, or I'm sorry, say you pick a piece of fabric, it could be all one color. I just, as I told you in the previous video, my top part I want to be made out of silk, and this is going to be kind of this is made out of velour, so that's why I'm working with 2. But you could have 1 piece of fabric and you could lay all 4 of your pieces on there, as long as your fabric is doubled. You have to double it, because remember, you need 2 of these times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so 2 and 2. So when I cut it, I will have 4 pieces all together, because I'm making 2, and it takes 2 to do this and 2 to do that. So please, whatever you do, remember, once you get your pattern pieces cut precisely, make sure you double your fabric. As you can see, I already laid this one down, doubled, and I pinned it. So I'm just going to just cut around here, and when I fix this one, cut around here. Those are my 2 top pieces. Then I'm gonna, this is all ready to go. I made the adjustments on both, because both of them needed to have a ½ inch added. I'm going to cut both of these, and I will have 2 and 2, and that's the part that will be connected to the dishcloth. So go ahead and make your patterns, make your adjustments, make sure they equal the excuse me I'm sorry, pardon me, the measurements that I've given you. I believe they will really work within, you know, a couple of maybe not even a half inch, maybe not even a quarter of an inch. It will work for us, believe me, and we'll make the adjustments as we go. So go ahead and make your patterns and make sure that they work, cut them out. And what I'm going to do is the same. I'm going to go ahead and cut mine out. Please take the time to visit my website, Busta Wraps, BUSTAWRAPPS, BustaWraps.com. This is video 3. Thank you. Bye-bye.